Everyone, it's great to be with you live. We're sorry we're a couple of minutes late, but what a beautiful day it is here, at least in Sydney. I hope it's nice where you are as well. Look, we're thrilled to be here today to talk to you about all things around field service management operations. And I'm really honoured to be here, joined by a great partner of ours, Enable, a Fujitsu company, and Emerson. And I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm the sales lead for field service management at ServiceNow for the APAC region. And Enable, a Fujitsu company, is a great partner of ours. Over to you, Emerson.
Good morning, Simon. Thanks for having me here. And good morning, everyone on the live stream. I'm Emerson. I'm the practice director of customer service transformation in Enable. And we work with different customers to help them, get the most benefit out of their ServiceNow investment.
We're here to really unpack a few different topics today. The first one that we want to talk about is customer centricity. Really, I think this is really important to me personally. I've been around field service for a long time. I've had the honor of working for a lot of the leading vendors in this space, and I'm really, driving the charge of field service here at ServiceNow. But something that became very evident to me a couple of years ago is that, when someone comes out to do some work in your home or your business or wherever it might be, often they're the only person that you ever see from that brand or that organization. And because of that, that interaction needs to be absolutely first rate. It's got to be so good that the customer experience is absolutely next level, because it's a defining moment. And this can have an impact on the whole future relationship with that customer or stakeholder, and therefore the future of your business, imperatives that you're trying to drive in the market. So with that, Emerson, I'd like to get your views on what do you feel about customer centricity in field service?
I agree. It's absolutely important. Especially customer centricity in face-to-face appointments. As a matter of fact, 67% of respondents on a survey said that their customer expectation on the experience have not just increased, it's actually higher than ever, right? And the thing about customer experience is it's not a one-size-fits-all, right? It can be different against people, against different customers, and different against industries. What do I mean by this? For example, in healthcare, where personal interaction is the preferred method of getting, a customer care. People said that the longer the interaction, the more frequent the interaction has actually been viewed as very favorable because the people receiving the service felt the care. However, this can be the opposite to other industries. As an example, in retail, in utilities, whereby some customers may think that a face-to-face appointment could be an inconvenience. Such an inconvenience that a survey also said that 80% of respondents said that they would rather try to do DIY than having to arrange for an appointment. The reason for this is that, some people will have to skip work. Sometimes they'll have to arrange for access, move furniture, move vehicles, and hence, it's going to be very different.
Yeah, look, this has really prompted me to I want to give you a sort of flavor for my personal experience in this matter. And I couldn't agree more that the actual interaction, the time of that interaction can be critical again to that overall experience. Now, a couple of years ago, here in Australia, we have the National Broadband Network, and you can get that from various retail providers. Now, I actually changed my retail provider and I upgraded my NBN, package that I had at home. The guy that came out and did that piece of work, he did it very well. But the point is, he took the time to speak to me, explain to me, and we built up a really good relationship in that interaction. And as a result, I will stay with that brand and stay with that retailer for life now. It was such a great experience. And I think this goes to the whole point of customer centricity. But of course, to Emerson's point, some industries may require longer or smaller. But let's remember, just make that interaction as good as possible because it's going to have a lasting impact.
Yeah, and that's why it's actually also important that, each organization will need to, do an analysis and define what they think is the right customer experience they want to give to their customers. And having a platform like ServiceNow, who's both flexible and configurable, and a partner like Enable Fujitsu to help you define what that good looks like is going to be really, really important.
I think is there any more you want to add on customer centricity, or we might move on to our next topic?
Let's move on to the next topic.
Okay, great. The next thing we wanted to talk about was really about both IoT and artificial intelligence. Huge topics in the market today. Now, what I've seen and what we see with our customers around the world is that, let's talk about IoT first. And I'll take the example of preventative maintenance. So preventative maintenance is where you look at the who and the what and the why are we doing that maintenance. So which customers have service contracts, and what's the time period of those? Does it mean that we have to service their equipment every month, every 6 months, every year? But what we're finding now is that there's this concept of servitization. What servitization means is that people can sell service contracts based on, the uptime of the asset, for example, or the life cycle of a number of print copiers, for example. And if we're using IoT sensors, we can trigger those preventive maintenance pieces of work automatically. Perhaps a copier has got to 30,000 copies. We might want to then automatically send a ticket of work for someone to go out and do the maintenance. Now, the other thing that's happening is AI is coming in. Now, we're all talking about AI. I mean, generative AI is the biggest buzzword going around the industry today, not just our industry, but every industry out there. And the benefits that this can bring to field service are absolutely huge. Just taking a step back, just want to talk about what ServiceNow has been doing with AI. So over the past 6 years, we have been acquiring a lot of technology and a lot of expertise around AI. In 2023, we announced a huge relationship with NVIDIA. So NVIDIA, in case you don't know, are the leading provider of large language models and the chips and hardware that actually drives all the bits of data to give you an AI outcome. Now, NVIDIA are in the top 5 biggest market cap companies in technology today, and it's been a very, very strong relationship that we've built with NVIDIA. What this has allowed us to do is use their expertise for really 2 main things. One, to help us drive and develop those LLMs, or large language models. These are what AI uses to be able to do its analysis and make its suggestions or present a particular suggestion, for example. So LLMs are really important, and when we partner with an organization that is the leader in that, it gives us a lot of ability to create very good and accurate LLMs. The second thing that they do is that they provide the computing power to drive and generate and process all that data that you've got in your LLM to give you the great outcome. So we see this as a very defining partnership that we have with them. So what do we do with FSM? So FSM, we are very purposeful about that. Within a field service management operations, there's various personas. So you've got the technician, you've got the end customer, you've got the dispatcher, that's the person back in the back office that has to make those decisions about exceptions and urgent cases that come in, etc. Also have management and the like, and they all have different requirements for AI. And you can see some of the examples of use cases that we think are relevant for Gen AI around the field service management operations. For example, out in the field, you might want to automatically bundle tasks while you're there. So you can do more than one piece of work in the one visit. That's driving efficiency for your organization. So Gen AI could suggest the other pieces of work that you should be doing and automatically create a bundle for you to do that work when you're on site. Might be something else around maybe summarizing work, or what I think is probably going to be one of the most beneficial things is really getting the whole insight on an asset or a piece of equipment that you're going to service. If you can get all that information about what's happened before, what the faults were before, what the manufacturer is saying, what the knowledge is saying, and prevent that in a conversational manner with the field tech, just think of the benefits you're going to get and the efficiency that you can drive from that. Emerson, you seeing much, around AI particularly?
Well, I think the thing is probably more on the IoT side of things that comes to mind in these conversations, and I'd like to share an example of an implementation that we did to one of our customers here in Australia. You see, this customer they wanted to implement a safety inspection system And they've leveraged a lot of capabilities from the ServiceNow platform to be able to achieve this. Like, for example, they've used GRC to specify the compliance requirements and the controls that they need to implement. They've used CSM and FSM to do the break fix, the workflows, perform the audit checks. But one big part of this implementation is the leverage in the use of IoT system. Now, what they did with the IoT system is they've connected it with various fridges and freezers that were spread across the different facilities. Now, some of these were placed in remote locations, some of them placed in, very, very secured locations. Now, in the past, what they would do is, they would have someone to walk over these different fridges, look at the temperature, record it on the logbook, and they would do this every day, every night, and every hour. And you could just imagine the amount of work that went into this, right? And the implications were actually big. They're actually huge, because if something fell through the cracks, it could mean waste in form of food spoilage, or it could mean health and safety implications of someone getting sick and consuming that food. Now, with the use of the IoT system, we were able to automate the monitoring and the recording of those temperatures, such that we were able to get in that data, interpret it, define control rules, such that if the temperature, for example, goes above a certain threshold, we will be able to automatically generate an alert. Like, if it's in the morning, it's going to be sent to the F&B staff. If it's at night, it's going to be sent to security, and someone can walk over and do their checks, and they could perform proactive actions. And some of these can be as simply as moving the stuff from one fridge to another, or sometimes they could even, automatically raise a field service work order for a field service technician to come in, use his FSM mobile, and do whatever work that they needed to do, right? And the benefits that they got out of this was actually very good. Not only that, they were able to improve their employee experience, because who likes going around different places and checking manual temperature? They've also been able to reduce their risk for regulatory exposure. They were able to save a lot of cost in terms of preventing the waste that comes out of this. But more importantly, they were also able to save about 2,500 man hours worth of just manually going around and checking. And now they're saying that they're able to complete their safety audits 6 times faster than before.
Oh, they're fantastic results, Emerson, and those benefits are just really tangible things, and I think that really has illustrated the power of IoT, in particular in your example.
Yeah.
And if you go back to the point I made before about servitization, if you can use IoT or AI to predict and give you more surety about your asset uptime, you can sell different service contracts to your customers. Not the time-based ones, but you can now do things about how much uptime I'm going to guarantee. Because I'm able to monitor them, and I'm able to get that proactive service, I can really keep the uptime of the asset much higher than I ever could before, which is a really good thing that we're seeing in the marketplace today. Okay, I think we might move our conversation now to a bit around AR in augmented reality, because this is another area that we're seeing a lot of interest in around the market. And in particular, we've got a good customer case study that we've done with Xerox, a big customer of ours, global customer of ours. So what Xerox have done, they're using our field service management solution, but they're also using from our partner a Care AR solution. And what Care AR is, it allows them to do a few things. One, it can allow the field tech to interact with in a live stream to maybe a more experienced person that's in the head office to help them provide a higher level of service. It's also able to do things like actually point the device at a piece of asset, and it will actually give them instructional information automatically. And if you look on the diagram you see on the screen that's there at the moment, you can see on the right-hand side that the tech is getting, it's pointing to a particular part of a piece of machinery, and it's telling the technician that he should be, replacing this particular part. So this is an example of how augmented reality can actually give you a real assistance in the field, in and above all the other tools that you've been used to using for some time. I guess if we look now at some of the specifics of the benefits that came from Xerox, huge amounts of benefits, big organization, they were able to look at these benefits from last year, 57,000 deflected dispatches. Imagine that in terms of dollars that's saving for the organization. Really, really significant. And then we'll talk about this a bit later, but there's a lot of CO2 benefits as well. But the thing that I want to talk about mostly is on the right-hand side, 42% remote solve rate. So by having the augmented reality there for the tech, when he's on site, coupled with him being able to do a live stream back to other expert resources as required, they are able to, really keep visits down to single visits, no repeat calls, so they can get the solve rate up first time very, very high. And they can also sometimes do that completely remotely, because what you can do is you can actually get the customer to use their device, and they can show the guy back in the back at the office what's going on, and they can be given the augmented reality experience as well to do that work as well. And then you can get a complete remote experience. I think that some of the other things are training time, 10 times improvement in the time it takes to train technicians by using the instructional information that they were able to provide through augmented reality. Really big benefit there. 53 minutes saved per day per tech. I mean, this is huge benefits, the tangible benefits that an organization has been getting from our platform. And they got their travel time through optimization reduced by about 7 minutes, reduced per call. So when depending on the number of calls you're doing a day, and in their business, providing support for copiers and other machinery, they might be doing 4 or 5 calls a day. So that's another significant benefit if you look at that over the course of an entire day. What do you think about that, Emerson? Those sorts of numbers are pretty impressive, aren't they?
Absolutely, and I agree, right? I think the rapid advances in XR technology, AI, image processing, and workforce augmentation, it's got a real, potential of changing the way people work. And I think it's going to give a lot of advantage to companies and organizations who will adopt that technology, and potentially a disadvantage to organizations who don't. I think, traditionally we're used to having a measure of the measure of how safely, how effectively, and how efficiently a task can be performed has been primarily dependent upon a certain individual, meaning their level of skill, their knowledge, and their experience. And as you would know, this would bring several challenges, especially in highly specialized fields. One example is, if you could see it on the slide, Fujitsu network systems. These are really complex pieces of equipment, and when they submit them or transfer them to the customers will need to do an assembly, and it was just a lot more difficult. The customers, because of the complexity of the nature and the specialized knowledge they needed, they were struggling. And Fujitsu have been thinking about different ways to solve this problem. One of the ways that they thought was, what if we pre-assemble these devices before we deliver them to the customers? However, that has brought its own set of challenges as well, because as I've said, because of the complexity, they needed specialists to be able to do this. They were not able to scale it, and it was very cost prohibitive. And this is where the AR technology came in and was able to support. So what Fujitsu did is they developed an app that essentially integrated the Microsoft HoloLens with the Vuforia engine and fed it with the configuration data that's allowed them to be able to send automatic real-time signals to the operator who's going to be doing the installation and the assembly, right? And by doing this, it had reduced the dependency of a specialized individual, which now allowed them to be able to scale faster. And as you said earlier, reduce the training time, because people are now following instructions and using the augmented reality technology to allow them to follow instructions and do the assembly. And the results they saw was that 19% was reduced in the assembly time, and up to 42% was reduced in installation time. Now, these benefits actually allow them to think that, hey, we can actually create a brand new revenue stream out of these, right? Because now they're able to offer this to the customers as an add-on and say, do you want us to pre-assemble it for you with this extra cost? And it actually, brought them additional revenue aside from the savings and ability to scale that they got.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, hopefully you've seen 2 great case studies there. I mean, Xerox and Fujitsu, big organizations doing a lot of field work, getting huge benefits out of AR technology. Specific next topic we wanted to touch on was the ESG impacts and the carbon reductions that you can get out of a field service management operations, like we've been talking about this morning. So if I continue on the Xerox path, you would have seen that there was a huge reduction in the number of dispatches that were made. I referenced this before, 57,000 of them. And, the impact of that translated to 594,800, metric tons of carbon that were avoided by, doing this remote solve and this first-time fixed rate that they're able to improve greatly through some of the technologies and the process we've been talked about. That is a huge reduction in a carbon footprint. That is going to be able to be, all organisations today are now reporting on their ESG impact. And this is a direct benefit to the organisation that is going to really help them, and it helps their standing in the community that they're doing this sort of stuff. So I think you've got some good examples on this as well, Emerson.
Yeah. Look, I think at our parent company Fujitsu, the future we envision is something that's aligned to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals of 2030, right? And as such, we've made some partnerships and even developed our own apps, to be able to support this vision. As a managed service provider, one of the things that we think that will help, contribute into this vision is to reduce waste. The offering is essentially a very lightweight solution. Don't need to install any app, but essentially uses the user's device. In this example, the user's camera, so that the agents on the other side will be able to see what the user sees, be able to ask, more targeted questions, identify actually the solution, and be able to provide a resolution without the need of sending someone over to the site. Based on actual implementations for our customers, in the UK, in Oceania, and in the Americas, we were seeing a benefit of between 2.5 to 7% reduction in unnecessary truck rolls. And of course, these variants can be dependent upon the adoption and the training. But if you think about that in scale, right? We've got one customer in the UK, 1,000 stores spread across different locations in the UK, and really high volume of truck rolls. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of truck rolls in here, right? If we're just going to assume 5% reduction of those truck rolls, multiply that by the average number of kilometers that has been traveled per truck roll, we're seeing a benefit of about 36,000 kilometers less of travel, right? And this number would actually equate to 3,420 kilograms of carbon emissions avoided, which is really something that helps, with reducing the carbon footprint and with the whole, ESG. Now, having said that, there are times that we know that a truck roll cannot be prevented, and it's actually, necessary. It could be a situation, and even some industries where really you have to send someone over, right? And for that, we did some analysis. And, the analysis points out that one way to be able to reduce your carbon footprint for these situations is through optimization, right? And for that, Fujitsu have developed a product that is actually available as a certified app on the Now Store. It's called FlexForce Optimization. FlexForce Optimization is an add-on into the ServiceNow field service management. Integrates really well with FSM, and essentially it's not like any traditional optimization tools. How it's different is that aside from taking in your historical data, taking in your preferences and what's important and what are the targets that you prefer, right? It also, it feeds this into the Fujitsu digital annealer. And then the digital annealer will then, feed in live data such as weather and traffic to be able to create a more optimized schedule for your, field technicians. And by doing this, we've been seeing really, really good benefits, aside from the typical reduction in SLA breaches because of the optimization, we've seen 1.3 hours increase in productivity. But more importantly, we've seen about 25 increase reduction in travel time and distance travel, which if we'll use the same math as we talked about earlier, right, these directly translates into, reducing your kilometers traveled and hence reducing your carbon footprint.
Excellent. I really like that example as well, Emerson. That's fantastic. I think that's kind of brought us to the end of the main topics we wanted to talk about. What we'd like to do now is what both Enable and ServiceNow would like to do is offer you the opportunity to engage in a workshop with us, and we're going to put a QR code on the screen very shortly. So we're going to assess first of all your level of FSM maturity, because we find that a field service management operation is a real journey. There are various levels of benefit that can be achieved at different parts of the journey. Each part of the journey, from the initial steps through to the most advanced steps, can give you benefits. There's benefits the whole way. So that's something that I think it's important to understand, is that level of maturity. We're going to look at how we can optimize your mobile workforce. We talked about that throughout this webinar. We're also going to talk about what KPIs are important to you, because every organization has their own specific KPIs that are important to them, and we need to make sure that anything that we're proposing or working on needs to align with your business strategy and your own KPIs. So I think in summary, we hope you've enjoyed today. I've certainly enjoyed it, and it's been great catching up with you as well, Emerson. And we would hope that you will take advantage of this opportunity to engage in a workshop with both ServiceNow and Enable to drive your field service management operations. And I think with that, we might, is there any questions that have come through? I'm just going to check that, because I think there's a couple of questions that may have come through on the chat. I think the first one that's been asked about is, what about the privacy with AI technology? Okay, so I think I'll take this one, because I think this is a very, very important. We all have heard about, how Gen AI can get biased, and it can give, people are concerned that, with the lack of the human touch, it can give, may not give always accurate results. So I think I'll take that back to our approach to AI. We partnered with NVIDIA for the reason that they understand LLMs. What they've done is they helped us develop the first large language model, and that is based solely on the ServiceNow platform and the data in that platform. So that is your data. As a customer, that's your own data. So we're not going to be biased by anything outside. Of course, you can do more with Gen AI, but we are limiting it initially. The initial LLM will be around the ServiceNow data itself. In other words, the customer's own data.
Cool. Looks like we have another question. I might take this one. The question is, how long does it take to implement the solution? And I think similar to what we said earlier, it's about personalization. Normally it would be dependent on multiple factors. It could be about, the complexity of your environments. But more importantly, we look at it very specifically about it being a process change. It's not a technical implementation. It's all about your people. And hence, we want to make sure that, whatever program is happening, it can be tied very closely with your organizational change management strategy so that you get the right adoption. However, having said that, we've seen customers who are, smaller, a lot more agile, a lot more simple. We've had implementations for as quickly as 8 weeks, right? From time to start and time to go live. But then there are also other enterprise customers who just will take it longer because they've got more complex environments, they've got more controls to follow, and they've got a larger workforce to implement it too.
Thank you, Emerson. Thank you very much. I think I'll just see if there's any more questions coming through. I don't think there is. So I think with that, we'll bid you adieu, and we'll thank you very much for your time. And we really hope you've got a lot of benefit out of this, and we hope to see you on one of our workshops. Thank you.
Thank you very much.